You can start to see the space station in great detail here. Again, this is from a view of the forward media cam at the top of the Dragon 2 module. Just to reiterate, this camera is not directly on the center line of the docking axis. Oh, this is a fantastic view of Dragon in the sunlight from the International Space Station. So normally when we're getting views from the Dragon for this webcast, you're going to be seeing a camera that's not quite on the center line, so it's a little bit off, and it may not look like we're heading directly towards the docking adapter, but if we're lucky enough, we might get some views from the centerline camera in the very center of the hatch from the space station, and you can see us kind of headed on right in. But right now, this is an unbelievable view from a space station. You can see Dragon 2 in full light with its nose cone open, its soft capture ring deployed. You can actually start to see those 3 petals that I was talking about earlier on that ring, 120 degrees apart. That ring is extended above the hatch by 6 hexapod arms that are all attached to Dragon by springs. So that will be the first part of Dragon to make contact with the ISS. And when it does, those springs will compress and absorb and dampen any of the relative velocity differences between the space station and Dragon. This soft capture system was actually subjected to extensive testing and the 6 Degree of Freedom Dynamic Test System at NASA Johnson, and this was actually the very same system they used to test other docking systems at NASA.
And we're hearing that Dragon is now at waypoint 2, about 20 meters away from station. So again,
Station Houston and 1, 20-meter hold confirmed. Perform step 8 in 1.102, Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
So the light you're seeing is both light from the International Space Station pointed at Dragon, and then the docking light, which is the bright spot in the center of Dragon's hatch, you can see right now. Right now, Dragon's flight computer is using those Draco thrusters, as you can see them firing on your screen to
Station Houston and 1, Dragon is resuming approach and is go for docking. Monitor per steps 9 and 10 in 1.102, Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
Station copies. Vehicle mode is approach to docking port. Primary range is decreasing. Vehicle is centered.
Copy all.
And getting good reports from Anne McClain there on board the International Space Station. Dragon is approaching, everything in on the center, and still looking good. So the crew is using that centerline camera on the Dragon spacecraft just to do all of their final monitoring of the vehicle. This camera a little off center. This is not the one the crew's using, but this is one that we have. But you can see now that international docking adapter. It's attached to a larger black piece of the station. That's a pressurized mating adapter, which is then attached to actually one of the modules, which is known as Node 2 in the Harmony. It's the Harmony module. So Dragon continuing to close in. It's expected to take just about 5 minutes or so, and there's a great side-by-side look. One view on your left from Dragon, one view on your right from the International Space Station.
On the view on the left from Dragon looking at the space station, we can finally see those details of the International Docking Adapter. The IDA is a passive system, and the Dragon contains all the active components of that docking system. You can actually see those androgynous petals, those 3 petals that are kind of sticking at 120 degrees apart from each other on the IDA on the left-hand side. In the very middle is actually a visual docking target that the astronauts can use to judge whether or not the Dragon is right on course. It has a little stick that comes off from the center of it, so you can see the stick's shadow and determine whether or not you're directly on center in all 3 axes. Like Dan said, this camera view on the left from Dragon is not the centerline camera. It's actually the forward media cam.
Range is 9.5 and decreasing. Vehicle is centered. Largest excursion observed is less than half a meter. And less than half a degree.
Copy.
All right, we're inside 10 meters. Halfway there.
Like I was saying, this camera view right here is just a little bit off center from the center line, so it may look like we're not approaching that IDA directly head on, just because the camera's not in the right position, but the crew has that center line camera, which is directly dead on. And as long as we keep hearing these good callouts, it sounds like Dragon is dead right where it needs to be. And there it is. There's that center line camera view that the crew on the International Space Station is using. They use the overlays to figure out, and that visual docking guide right there to make sure that Dragon is exactly where it needs to be as it approaches. On the right-hand side, you can start to see the mechanisms of the SpaceX docking system aboard the Dragon. The very first part of Dragon that will make contact with the ISS is that soft capture ring. You can see it's extended forward from the hatch of the Dragon right now. As soon as those pedals make contact, latching pawls will engage and hold the pedals against the opposite ones on the IDA, and contact pins will depress, and we should hear the call out for soft capture achieved.
Crew hands off point.
Copy.
All right, so we're at that crew hands-off point. That means we're about 2 meters away. Crew no longer sending commands. Dragon doing everything on its own.
Soft capture confirmed.
Issue confirms.
You can hear the cheers behind us at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. We have confirmation of a soft capture of the Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station. You can see in your view the Dragon still moving around a little bit. That's the soft capture ring is attached to Dragon by way of 6 arms that are all attached to springs that help dampen the motion. There's a difference in the relative velocities between the Dragon and the